President Trump met with President Gustavo Petro of Colombia in the White House, along with members of both of their cabinets. This is a critical meeting for the future and the current relations between the U.S. and Latin America. That visit clearly shows that things have changed. We saw two smiling presidents shaking hand, what looked like a very amicable meeting. Petro described it as fantastic. Trump signed a photo for Petro, also signed a MAGA hat, and then Petro added an S to make America great again, to say make America's great again. And look, it's important to really keep in mind, to understand how far apart these two people are politically speaking. President Petro is a former guerrilla fighter, a far-left leader, and yet the two came together. Today they had a discussion about cooperation in terms of drug trafficking, which is something that is essential in Colombia. Colombia is producing more cocaine than ever before, even though Petro likes to stress that they're also seizing more cocaine than ever before. This is clearly a top priority for the Trump administration. It is what they have said justified all of their actions surrounding Venezuela, the boat strikes, and the eventual capture of Maduro. I mean, keep in mind, when I interviewed President Petro in October, it was at the peak of their war of words. At that point, I asked Petro, would you consider lowering the rhetoric? And that is because there was a lot of name-calling, there were threats. President Trump was calling Petro an illegal drug leader. President Petro was calling President Trump a Nazi. There was so much tension. The second time I interviewed Petro, things had significantly shifted. Maduro had been captured. Petro had called President Trump. Trump took that call and invited him to the White House. It wasn't just the fear. What Petro told me is that he wanted to talk to Trump directly because he thought that there were people telling things about him and telling Trump lies about him. And he knew that if they spoke directly, things would change. And according to him, they did in that phone call. Petro has just a few months in office. His term is about to end. But this restoring of a relationship at a time when a lot of right-wing leaders are winning elections in Latin America signals the amount of influence that the United States has or is attempting to have when dealing with South and Central America.